Hello ladies, here is another sample exam question for consumers, firms and markets. This question will not be on the final exam. That's right, not! But it does represent a question that is similar in style to an actual final exam question. Here we're presented with a graph and asked two questions. What will the firm's long-run free market price and output be, and what is the allocatively efficient price and output? Now, when we look at this graph, we can immediately see it's got funny shapes, especially the demand curve, or the average revenue curve, which doubles as the marginal social benefit curve, and the marginal revenue curve. This is a kinked demand curve, indicating we're dealing with an oligopoly environment. So we've also been presented with information about the marginal costs and the marginal social cost. We can see that they diverge, and the marginal social costs are higher than the marginal private costs, indicating that there are negative externalities of production being generated by the firm. Let's just start with the first question, where we're just looking at what would be the profit maximising price and quantity. So we only need the firm's private marginal costs in this case. The profit maximising output is going to be at the point where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. That's this point here. So we can immediately deduce that the firm's profit maximising output is going to be 8 units, and it will charge the highest price consumers are willing to pay, which happens to be at the kink point in this diagram, that is $20. So far so good. Now we want to think about adding the other curve, the marginal social cost curve. So we're adding negative externalities on top of the private costs. The socially optimal output is going to be given by the point where the marginal social benefit, the last unit consumed, just equals the marginal social cost of the last unit produced. Now, where is that on the diagram? Well, it's given by this point here. Okie doke. So the socially optimal output is going to be 8, and the socially optimal price is going to be 20. So we have no change in the price and output. What's interesting about this particular example is that it's contrary to the standard conclusion we would come to. If we, for example, looked at a perfectly competitive market, that is where we just had supply and demand, we can see that when we look for the free market price and compare it to the socially optimal price and quantity, that the price is higher when we include the external costs, and the quantity is lower. But in this example which we've looked at, this oligopolistic market in which there is a kink in the demand curve, the socially optimal price and quantity is identical to the private profit maximising price and quantity.